Happy Tuesday. Today is the 28th day of December. I forgot for a second. Today is the 28th day of December. This is the 67th episode of season 2 of the Be Your Own Hero show. HERO is an acronym. It means helping everyone reaps optimism. In other words, helping others helps you. It's a reciprocal action. Try it. You might like it. I hope you do. So I'm your host. I'm sekouwrites. I am a professional creative and the creator of what we're now calling the HERO Ministry Movement. And that is essentially my effort to uplift and inspire the unhoused community through several different means. I had a thought. I'm going to circle back to it. Anyway, it's my effort to inspire and uplift the unhoused community. So shout out to New Thought Media Network for allowing me this platform, allowing me the space and opportunity to talk about my journey of becoming my own hero, and specifically for season 2, my journey of becoming my own financial hero. All right, check me out here Monday through Friday, 8:45 a.m. Central? Yes, 9:45 a.m. 9:45 a.m. Eastern and 7:45 a.m. Mountain. Got my time zones confused. Okay, so if this show provides any value to you, please like, please comment, please share, make a donation, buy something from the Hero Store. You can find everything about me at my website, sekouwrites.com. Okay, so all that said, I want to shout out to the folks in the chat. Shout out to Tim with the morning cup of coffee. Shout out to Nan. Shout out to Linda from Colorado. Oh, they got snow. It is 70 degrees in Nashville. It's crazy. I went running yesterday in a t-shirt and I posted it on social media. People were like, "Where's your jacket?" I was like, "I don't need a jacket. It's 70 degrees here." I haven't been outside yet. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, 70 degrees. It's a little odd, to be honest with you. Deep into December. Okay, so shout out to everybody. Shout out to all the heroes in the chat. Shout out to all the heroes watching live but not commenting in the chat. And shout out to all the heroes who are going to watch the replay later. I appreciate you. That said, I got some comments yesterday. You know, if you watch the show, I don't always get to the comments at the end of the show, but I saw some comments after the show ended telling me that they really appreciated yesterday's advice. I appreciate your comments because it's so funny. So many times I finish the show, I'm like, did I say anything? Did I say anything really? And yesterday was one of those days where I was like, I don't think I said anything. And then thankfully I got a couple of comments from you out there, so I greatly appreciate that. And then I ran into a friend who said similar things yesterday, and I'll actually get into that in a minute too. Okay, so let's get into the Hero Ministry Movement news. So I've already done the shout out to the heroes in the chat. I've already thanked you for the kudos. And so let me just do a brief comment about my run streak. Today should be day 211. Yesterday was 210, milestone day. Today should be 211. I have chosen not to run this morning because since I've been back in Nashville, I haven't been able to connect with Black Men Run. If you've been watching the show, you know that this is the group that I credit with helping me become a runner, really. I was doing a little something on my own, but joining Black Men Run is what enabled me to become a runner. And since I've been back, we've been missing each other. And yeah, I won't go into that. We just keep missing each other. And I think what happens on Tuesdays, they run on Tuesdays and Saturdays. On Tuesdays, I think what happens is because I run in the morning, there's something in my brain that's like, job done, check mark, done. We've done that. And then so later on in the day, they run in the evenings on Tuesday. It doesn't occur to me, or I can't quite sync it up. So anyway, what I did today is I chose not to run in the morning, and it was difficult because my body's like, it's time to go, it's time to go, it's time to go. And I was like, no, we're going to wait so that it forces me to run with Black Men Run later on today because I do want to reconnect with them. I literally haven't seen them since I've been back in Nashville. Okay, so that said, my run streak, day 211 is today, but it'll happen later in the day. Okay, just a reminder, I have been asked to be on a podcast. Super excited about that because this is a different type of topic. I've been asked to be on a podcast about money, or rather, I've been asked to talk about money and abundance on this podcast. So here is the podcast information as promised. The show is called Let's Talk 1943, and there's the host right there in the middle. Well, those are the three hosts, and the one that I met before is Regina Smithwick. I've previously been on her podcast. What did we talk about last time? I think we talked about my play, if I remember correctly. You can listen to that previous podcast on my podcast. I basically did a podcast of a podcast. So I was on her podcast, and I took that footage and condensed it into my own podcast. So you can check out my podcast, which is just the sekouwrites podcast. Just a quick reminder, I have two podcasts. The sekouwrites podcast is kind of like all things Sekou, what I'm doing here and there. And then the other podcast is Get Rich 101, which we've talked about a lot on this show, especially this season, because Get Rich 101 is about financial and spiritual abundance. So anyway, check out both of those podcasts. They're both available on all the podcasting platforms. If you want to hear my previous interview with Regina Smithwick, that is on the sekouwrites podcast. Okay, got that out the way. Stay tuned for that. I'll be talking more about it as we move closer. And I have committed to doing, I don't know if I should call it a seminar or a workshop. So I'll just go with the word I like better. Like technically, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to go with seminar because I like that word better. So I have decided to do a Get Rich 101 seminar in the month of January. It's going to be not an ongoing thing. It's going to be a one-off. So maybe an hour or two on a specific day in January. I'm pulling together the details. As soon as I had the thought yesterday, so I mentioned it on the show yesterday, things started falling into place in my mind. So I'm committed to that. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for my very first Get Rich 101 seminar. That should be very cool. So I'll keep you posted. All right. And let me know if you're interested. Drop a comment in the chat. Send me a DM. Yeah, drop a comment in the chat or send me a DM. I was thinking about other ways to contact me, but let's keep it simple. Drop a comment in the chat if you're interested. Send me a DM if you're interested, and I'll circle back. Okay, so morning Zen. Today's morning Zen comes from Zig Ziglar. You heard me talk about him yesterday if you watched the show. And Tom Hanks, believe it or not. So I love it when there's synchronicity, because that feels like confirmation for me. So early this morning when I was doing my morning Zen, I read this quote from Zig Ziglar. Again, this is from his daily devotional guide. He has many books, and they're all amazing. At least the ones that I've read are amazing. But right now I'm reading from his daily devotional guide. And by the way, I don't necessarily worry about matching up the day to the current day. I just think of it as each one is a little bite-sized bit of information, no matter what day it says at the top of the page. So anyway, I read I read a daily devotional from that book today. And then about maybe an hour later, I got a text from a friend with the same message from Tom Hanks, which is wow. So I love that synchronicity. So I'm going to read what I read from Zig Ziglar, and then I'll just tell you about what Tom Hanks said. So here's the quote from Zig Ziglar. The past can bog us down in two distinctly different ways. Some of us feel ashamed by our failures, and our minds are haunted by those memories. Others live in past glories. We keep reliving those glorious moments. Living in the past, whether failed or successful, takes our lives out of focus. Forget the past and move on. Forget the past and move on. Forget the past and move on, good or bad. So after I read that this morning, again, a friend of mine sent me a YouTube video of Tom Hanks, and in it, Tom Hanks was saying, this is what I wish I had learned earlier. What I wish I had learned earlier is that this too shall pass also applies to the good stuff. It's easier to apply it to the bad stuff. This too shall pass. I'll get over it. I'll get past it. but it also applies to the good stuff. When you think you finally arrived, when you think you got the hit movie, whatever, this too shall pass. So to strive for equilibrium. Don't let yourself get too low. Don't let yourself get too high. And that's something I've heard in several aspects of Buddhism. Try to maintain your equilibrium. Don't get too hype. Don't get too sad. This too shall pass. So I love the fact that this message from Tom Hanks overlapped this message from Zig Ziglar, separated by many years, of course. The other thing that I read this morning was, in terms of grounding myself, was the Dalai Lama, as usual. And this is what he said today. Unless you make specific time for something that you feel committed to, you will always have other obligations. Unless you make specific time for something that you feel committed to, you will always have other obligations. And we just know that to be true, right? We just know that to be true. If you don't make a plan, if you don't set a date, if you don't carve out space, it'll just slide to the wayside. No matter what it is, it's just going to slide. And in the Dalai Lama's reading today, there was a story about a student and a teacher, and they were talking about going on a picnic, and then they never went on the picnic. And that was the story to illustrate the fact that you can have something that you want to do, but unless you make a plan to do it, it won't happen. So that can be applied to anything, but in the context of this show, let's apply it to investing. Let's apply it to changing your financial future. You can think about it in your what did I say before? In your armchair all you want, but that's just armchairing. You got to get up and move and do something. Otherwise, it's just going to slide by the wayside. I think that's very important. It's a very important lesson for anything, but we're going to apply it to finances today. Okay, so that said, let's move on to the abundance. And just to reset the show, it's about 10 o'clock. So if you're just joining us, we've been talking for about 15 minutes already. The show now starts at 9:45 a.m. Eastern time. So tune in a little bit earlier. And if you missed the show, or you want to watch the replay of any episode, including this episode, just go to New Thought Media Network on Facebook, on YouTube. You can also watch the replay on my Facebook and my YouTube. Okay, there we go. So moving on to the abundance, let's start off with the affirmation as per usual, and just lock this into our system so that it's always there. Where's my affirmation? Here we go. I am so happy and grateful to be a multi-millionaire in every aspect of my life. I am so happy and grateful to be a multi-millionaire in every area of my life. I know I said aspect instead of area. Those two are interchangeable to me. Just the idea is applying abundance to everything around you, not just thinking about finances, not just thinking about money, but applying that idea of abundance to everything around. Okay, so before we move any further, I want to thank you, Nan, for already saying that you're interested in the seminar. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. All right. So I want to give this reminder every day. Poor people spend, the middle class saves, but the wealthy invests. So if you're saving and you're spending, make sure that you are also investing. It is not optional. It is necessary. It is not optional. It is necessary. Investing is not optional. It is necessary. Even if you just want to retain the current value of your money, it's necessary to invest. That's a big mindset shift for me. It might be a big mindset shift for you. Just remember, it's imperative that you invest and that you invest wisely. The number that we created yesterday, well, not created, the number that we talked about yesterday was 10%. You want to invest in assets that have at least a 10% return, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so yesterday there was a comment that I saw after the show ended that really blew me away. Yesterday I was talking about paying yourself first, this idea of paying yourself first, and how difficult it can be and how difficult it's been for me personally to pay myself first, because my excuse circle has been around, I don't have enough money, I'm an artist, I got to use all the money that I get in, I can't afford to invest until after bills are paid, etc. That's what I've been caught in for a very long time. And even as I was reading and understanding about the idea of paying yourself first, I was still like, no, I can't do that. My small increments of money that I get are too small to take anything away from that to invest. And I discovered that if I really focused on taking the 10% out immediately when I get the money and setting it aside, it's like it was never there. It's like it was never there, but I have to do it as soon as it comes in. Honestly, for me, if I wait even a day later, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It has to happen on the day. And so I'm just going to recap what I said, then I'm going to get back to the comment in the chat from yesterday. So recapping, if you get $200 and you set aside $20 immediately, you will be able to make do with 180. You'll make do. It will be as if the $20 was never there. You won't even notice its absence. But if you pay $180 in bills and you got $20 left, there's no way that you're going to invest that last $20. Either you're going to buy yourself something fancy, something special to make yourself feel better, or you're going to try to save it. Right? So the better way to do it psychologically is to take it right off the top. And obviously, if you've got a job, you can have them automatically allocate some of your income elsewhere. But if you're a freelancer or an artist like me, you just have to be disciplined to take that 10% as soon as the money hits your account and shuttle it away into a different bucket. So back to the comment. The comment was, and my jaw fell open. The comment was, and I'm not going to say who it was, but there was a comment in the chat yesterday about someone who did this, who actively paid themselves first over a period of time and was able to amass over $500,000. Over $500,000, more than $500,000 saved up just by paying themselves first. So that was inspiration for me. That means that I will not miss any more days of shifting my 10% over. Because admittedly, there are some days when I'm feeling really pinched financially and some money comes in and I'm like, oh, I need all of it. I need all of it. I can't do it this time. But that note about having accumulated more than $500,000 just by paying yourself first, that was my inspiration. And so I will not miss any more days. I will take my little 10%, move it aside, and deal with what I got to deal with from what's left. So I invite you to do the same thing. So this is really for the freelancers and the artists out there. As soon as that money comes in, wherever it comes from, take 10%. This also means, in my case, that I invite you to do the same thing. Any money that comes in, like, for example, in the beginning, I used to just think of it as goods for services, money for goods and services. Yeah, if I got paid for something, I'll take 10% and set it aside. But now it's like anytime. Like I went to a birthday dinner in New York before I left. And you know how it is, at the end of the meal, everybody splits the check. And because I had less food or something, people were cash apping me money to compensate. I left all that money in Cash App. I didn't put any of it into my checking account. All of it went into investing. I was like, that's just free money. Yeah, I know I could reimburse myself. Nope, I'm just going to leave it over there and invest it. And I was only able to do that because of my many months of taking 10% and moving it over, taking 10% and moving it over. So I got myself acclimated to the fact that the world's not going to crumble. My financial world will stay intact. I can survive without that 10%. So anyway, I invite you to do the same thing. Thanks for leaving that comment. I appreciate it. It was definitely inspirational to me. On that same tip, yesterday was a friend of mine's birthday, so we met up for a drink, and that led to a couple other things. I should clarify, we met up for a drink of coffee. For those of you like, oh, Sekou say he doesn't drink. Yeah, we met up for coffee. So a couple of things happened in that conversation that were interesting. First, like some of you yesterday, he gave me kudos for being able to simplify some of this financial stuff, which, by the way, I don't feel at all like I'm doing, but I appreciate that you and he think that that's so. So that was a good conversation. And then we also talked about some really interesting things. He asked me if I was to advise him, and we had the whole disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. We did all that. But if he just won the lotto, was the example. If he just won the lotto, where would I tell him to put my money? And so I gave my disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. And also, let me just put it on me. Let me tell you what I would do instead of telling you what you would do. And then I did an asset allocation on the fly in terms of what percentages I would put where in terms of my portfolio. The interesting thing about this is that when I finished doing my asset allocation, I realized right there in that moment that that is not my current asset allocation. What I visualize as my ideal asset allocation is not what I have in my portfolio. And I was like, I need to take a look at that. So let me double back. Most of what I said to him was based on something that I learned from Warren Buffett. So there was, I'm not sure when it was, but there was this big brouhaha about Warren Buffett saying that he has set it up so that if he passes away before his wife, the way the money will be allocated for his wife is 90%. 90% of the entire portfolio will go into index funds. Done, 90%. And the other 10%, bonds. That's it. 2 asset classes, done, over. And so there was this really big brouhaha. People were talking about it and saying it didn't make sense. Someone, I forget the man's name now, but someone actually tested it. And he said, all right, I'm going to test it and see if it works. And he was shocked that it worked very well. He discovered, the person who tested it, discovered that what worked even better was having 60% of your portfolio in index funds and 40% in bonds. But that's still just 2 asset classes, just index funds specifically within the stock market and bonds. And that's it. And those 2 stood the test of time. So the idea is that bonds are much less volatile than stocks. There will always be another market crash. And people forget that, but there's always going to be another one. There's going to be another crash. There's going to be another recession. And so to balance that out, you have the bonds. And in index funds, just a reminder, are huge funds where you've got, like, so the S&P 500 is the most popular index fund. It is a fund that houses 500 different companies, but not just 500 different companies, 500 of the biggest companies in the United States. And it is a managed account. So if number 499 starts failing, somebody will come in and take that company out of the S&P 500 and substitute it with another company that's doing well. So it's very hard to go wrong with the S&P 500. It is considered the standard by which the stock market is measured. It stumbled a bit at the beginning of the pandemic, but compared to the charts of other properties that stumbled during the pandemic, it just kind of tripped a little bit and then regained its momentum and then exceeded where it used to be very quickly. So it's a very strong, solid, dependable investment historically. Now, obviously, historical performance is not an indicator of future performance, but it has done very well over time and continues to do very well. It also not only appreciates in value, it also kicks out a significant dividend. So if you've got DRIP on, and DRIP again is dividend reinvestment, if you got the DRIP on, the DRIP will reinvest itself into the S&P 500, and that will grow and grow and grow. All right, so, oh, my alarm is going off. Wow, see, I sidebarred too long. So here's my point. My general point is that it doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. That's my general point. That we can just invest in index funds. I mean, it's Warren Buffett, right? Like who are we to disagree with this man who has built his life around investing? We could simplify our financial portfolios by investing in index funds and apparently bonds, which I have none of, by the way, and bonds, and just be able to set it and forget it. My secondary point is I was very surprised to realize that my portfolio does not look the way I would want it to look when asked. And so I have to figure out why that is, but also I have to do the work to reallocate it. Now, my knee-jerk thought about why that is that artist mentality. I've probably been thinking, I don't have enough. I've only got a little bit of money invested, so let me spread it out onto all these different like numbers, like a roulette wheel. Let me put it on all these different numbers. But thinking about what Warren Buffett said and thinking about my conversation with my friend yesterday, it makes sense to allocate it the way I want it allocated now, so that if tomorrow $20,000 fell into my lap, I wouldn't know where to put the money. I wouldn't have to do any work. Because that's where things get tricky. When you get an influx of money and then you have to figure out what to do now. Like every second that goes by, it gets more and more dangerous. Whereas if you've already got your portfolio set up the way it's supposed to be set up, you get $20,000 tomorrow, you're like, all right, so here's 90% of that goes into index funds, 10% of that goes into bonds, and we're done. I'm gonna pinch off a little to go have a steak dinner. We're done. No stress, no worry. The money is allocated and no one else can get their hands on it. No financial advisors, no con men showing up in suits. Hope you saw that episode. Nobody. You've got it squared away. So it's very important to set it up now so that when, not if, when you get a windfall, you'll know exactly where to put that. So I'll probably be talking a little bit more about that because I have to do this now. This is not what I've been doing. And so I got to figure out how to move things around. So I think what I will do, step one, is to add up the dollar amount of my portfolio. And again, I'm gonna have very much invested. I just started recently, but I'm gonna add up the dollar amount and then divide that dollar amount into percentages. So let's just use the same allocation. 90% of this amount is how much, and 10% is how much. And then divide along those lines, if I can, into different portfolios. So I'll let you know how that goes. So I think that's definitely not it. That's definitely not it because I sidebarred too long. So I'm going to roll some of my thoughts over to tomorrow. But I'm sorry, I'm reading one of the comments. Yeah, so I'm trying to. This is a long one, Linda. I'm trying to read. As a kid, when I earned money or received a gift my parents required, I saved half. I fought the idea at times, but the result was that I learned to manage money well, even when the amount I had wasn't much. That reminds me of someone. Oh, my barber. I have a barber in Nashville. And do I have time? I got just a couple seconds to tell the story. So he is a character. But one of the things he told me was something very similar. He said that his parents required him basically to pay bills as soon as he started making money. He had to pay his parents. And so basically he had to pay rent. Like it wasn't rent, but he had to pay a specific amount of money to his parents, right? And he would complain about it, and they explained. Actually, they didn't explain this till later. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared to tell the story. So when he got out into the world and he was making money on his own, he always had more money because he was used to only working with half of what he made. He too had to part with half. He didn't invest it. He had to give it to his parents, but he had to make do with half. So when he got out there into the world, his other peers started spending money. He was not, because he learned how to work with half. And so he learned how to invest, first save, and then later how to invest the other half. And then he was able to acquire some assets. Okay, that took me over time. It's time for prayer time now. Check out prayer time, and also check out Sip with Rev Melissa at 10:30. Just a reminder, Rev Melissa is on winter solstice, so she won't be there, but we are playing a pre-recorded show from her first week on the New Thought Media Network. So it's been interesting to watch and see the transition. So keep doing, be a hero, be your own hero, and remember that now is better than perfect. I'll see you tomorrow.